Last year on my 25-nation personal tour, to assess the populist revolution across the world, I spent several days in Romania, which had recently begun the process of amending its constitution to protect marriage. The change should have been as much a no-brainer for the Romanian government as it was for their next-door neighbors in Hungary, since the Romanian people are overwhelmingly morally conservative, being mostly Orthodox Christians. Yet, the marriage amendment, backed by a 3 million-strong signature drive, has been delayed for some time in the Romanian Senate and most recently by the Romanian Constitutional Court, which has announced that it would analyze the law's compatibility with the rest of Constitution. Who is really behind this Stonewall campaign? My guess is the U.S. State Department. Romania is heavily influenced by the United States government, specifically the Departments of State and Defense, and at least the State Department seems intent on advancing the leftist agenda on LGBT issues in foreign nations as aggressively as if Donald Trump had never been elected. U.S. Ambassador to Romania Hans Klem has been an outspoken champion of homosexuality, even marching for gay marriage in the pouring rain this past summer. The jury is still out on the mixed messages coming Defense Secretary James Mattis, who has so far delayed the push for transgenderism in the military but allowed the rest of the gay agenda to proceed. But just last week an Air Force colonel has been punished for refusing to affirm gay marriage, and Secretary Mattis has been AWOL in his defense. I've opined previously that the Departments of Defense and State are really the heart and soul of the D.C. swamp and likely the reason President Trump has not been able to keep several of his campaign promises on foreign policy issues, including his promise to end neocon warmongering and propaganda regarding Russia and the Middle East. I even suggested that his capitulation to McCain and the other neocon senators on Syria was their price for finally confirming Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court. I believe the Gorsuch appointment reflects President Trump's commitment to the pro-family cause in the same manner the Scalia appointment reflected President Reagan's views. I've also written several times about my experiences in Riga, Latvia, during the George W. Bush administration, when Pastor Ken Hutcherson, an emissary of the Bush White House Office of Faith-Based and Community Initiatives, and I confronted U.S. Embassy staff there about their orchestration of the 2007 Gay Pride Parade in defiance of the will of over 95% of the Latvian people. I was shocked at the time, only later learning that it was the supposedly pro-family George Bush who had proactively appointed the second openly homosexual U.S. ambassador in history in 2001 to Romania. The first such appointment was just 2 years earlier by Bill Clinton, to Luxembourg. Then came Obama, who simply threw open Pandora's box on sexual deviance and made the LGBT agenda a priority for all branches of the U.S. government. His cabinet pick for state was, of course, Hillary Clinton, allegedly her consolation prize for bowing to Ted Kennedy's demand to let Obama cut the line to the presidency in 2008, while he kept key Bush insider Robert Gates at defense, where Gates spearheaded the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. As the Trump presidency has brilliantly exposed, the Bushes, Clintons and Obama are really a single political organism, a multi-headed political hydra whose blatant, anti-Trump conspiracies are continually being revealed in articles such as this. Just as Ronald Reagan was forced by the one-worlders to accept George H.W. Bush as vice president, Donald Trump accepted several agents of the elites in his administration, including Rex Tillerson at State. Tillerson is, of course, the former chairman of the Boy Scouts of America who voluntarily capitulated to the gay agenda despite holding the ultimate ace in the hole in the form of a U.S. Supreme Court ruling specifically recognizing the Boy Scouts' right to discriminate against homosexuality in its ranks. Who was Tillerson's partner in that moral treason? Robert Gates, who, after homosexualizing the U.S. military, then succeeded Tillerson at the Boy Scouts. What is it about the homosexual agenda that is so important to the elites that they would not just destroy the moral foundations of the Boy Scouts and the military to advance it, but aggressively cram it down the throats of every morally conservative country of the world, even in Eastern Europe where we are competing with overtly pro-family Russia for favor? Why would men like Tillerson and Klem continue to push that agenda in countries like Romania, even under the Trump administration and in the face of a growing global revolution against political correctness that was sparked by such policies? It is insanity that can only be explained in spiritual terms. Destroying the biblical presuppositions of Judeo-Christian civilization is the necessary prerequisite to imposing the new world order of their envisioned global socialist government. This is why, in the world of geopolitics, the newly re-Christianized and increasingly pro-family Russian Federation is their scapegoat and target of incessant war propaganda. It is why, inside U.S. borders, the elites are rushing desperately to criminalize Christian values on sexuality, from banning reparative therapy for gays to punishing any refusal to embrace transgender newspeak. This is also why the entire leftist bloc, from Antifa and BLM at the street level to the establishment of both political parties and the lying media, is united to resist President Trump and falsely portray him as a fascist, because the Samson, like Donald Trump, as unlikely a champion of Judeo-Christian values as was that biblical judge, represents the greatest threat to the swamp they have faced since Reagan. In the long process of draining the D.C. swamp, the executive department to watches state, whose leadership has long enjoyed a revolving door relationship with the Bush and Clinton political dynasties, the CIA and the Department of Defense. For the swamp draining to be real and lasting, changes must be reflected not just around the edges, but in the heart of the swamp as well, and it must not simply pander to domestic populist priorities like immigration. It must restore respect for the common foundation of all civilization, authentic marriage and the natural family. The true litmus test for making America, and the world, great, our response to the culture-destroying gay agenda, and the true measure of our national sanity is whether we stop trying to force the world to normalize it.